Yay! I am so happy. We are so lucky to be joined by the co-director, co-producer, co-writer, co-editor, co-everything of this fabulous movie, Picture of His Life. Please welcome Dani Menkin. Dani!
Hello, Warren. How
Hello.
are you?
I'm doing well. I'm just waiting for the audience applause to die down a little bit.
Yeah, it drives me crazy when they do that. It's like it's just so annoying.
They follow you
Like,
everywhere. It's because we love you and we love the movie. And thank you so much for sharing it with us. I had a bunch of questions for you. I feel very fortunate because we've had the chance to talk many times in the past about your filmmaking genius. This is just the latest opportunity. Um, Something I don't know about this is, we see Amos on his quest, but when did you and Jonathan get involved in that quest? Was it 2 weeks before and he said, come to the Canadian Arctic, or was it
oh my God.
2 years?
No, so it was pretty crazy. I mean, I think the first time I saw you was with 39 Pounds of Love, and we
Mhm.
talked about that movie. And when it won the Israeli Academy Awards, there is this thing that people say, oh, if you had success with one movie, just do another one kind of like that. So I was approached by a studio to make a film which is about road trip story, but about this wildlife photographer that wants to shoot the polar bear underwater. And that's where I also met Jonathan. Jonathan was working with Amos at that time. And I was already starting to gear into narrative. So I told Jonathan, let's just do that together and see how it works. We had no idea how tough it will be, that it will take us 10 years to raise the money, to get to the Arctic, to find the right time that we will be able to do it because of the situation over there. So meanwhile, there was a point that I told Jonathan, look, it's Arctic, polar bear. Don't you have like a better story in Israel about dolphins? That's when Dolphin Boy came. Jonathan said, I actually do. I worked in the Dolphin Reef, and here's that story that we were shooting as part of the training in the Dolphin Reef. And it was interesting because we found out that there are a lot of parallel stories to the uh, to the post-traumatic dissociation that both characters have been going through in Dolphin Boy and with Picture of His Life, the father and son relationship in Dolphin Boy and in Picture of His Life, and the healing power of nature. So when we finished Dolphin Boy and that became a success, we were saying something that became a big mistake. How about we go back to Picture of His Life? Let's just do that. That was our original plan. This is still, it's still there. I say it was a big mistake because we had no idea how tough it would be. It was a very, very big undertaking. But thank God it's there, and thank God the world can see it in the festival and in pictureofhislife.com. And we're out there. We came out just before the pandemic, and the story of this guy going to the Arctic, shooting, the most dangerous creatures on Earth with no social distancing. That was part of the excitement of this film.
You say it like it was really hard, and I imagine it was, but what was the biggest struggle? Was it just the elements, essentially?
You know, every movie you carry on your shoulder, it's tough. It's like a startup. You're really are establishing a business with its own challenges and raising the money. People that will believe in you. There are so many different ways to do it. In this case, we had to do a TV version first for Germany and France. And then we said, both Jonathan and I agreed, this is not the movie we wanted to tell. This is the movie they wanted to show, but not the movie we wanted to make. And then, but they gave us the money to shoot it. So we were able to be with Amos and shoot over there. Now, when you go to the Arctic, and whoever knows a little bit about my work, I'm much more comfortable in the basketball arena than in the Arctic. when you cannot even go to the bathroom because there is no bathroom, and there is a guy with an Inuit with a gun that watches over you all the time, just before these characters of yours want to shoot the polar bear underwater. So that was the biggest challenge, to put it together financially and logistically. With that, that was also the hook of the movie. That challenge was what it drove us to make it.
I,
So yeah.
I have to imagine that Amos, it feels like he's a challenge as well. Like I presume he wanted to have the movie made, but he doesn't seem like he's necessarily the easiest interview.
No, Amos is not the easiest interview, the easiest character, and he will be the first one to say it about himself. And you can understand, because of what he went through with his father. And he had a really tough father and tough relationship between them. And the father still, even until the day we shot, thought he's a loser, even though he was a world-renowned wildlife photographer. And what happened in the war? For someone to go to the Israeli army in 1973, you can be either non-human or have a post-trauma. I mean, this is this. I mean, on the map, I told the story about the country that is recovering from that post-trauma. In many ways, Israel is still recovering from that trauma, from the 73 war and from the Holocaust. So Amos had a lot of scratches, and choose to follow that needs to heal. And it's not easy, but it's also beautiful because you see that process. And at some point, Amos, as a character, is giving up on the gun and replacing it with a camera. And that's what we wanted to show in the film, that hopefully the world one day will be able to replace the gun and create beauty and create art. At least in the movies we can do it.
That would be great. It'll create more competition for you, but that would be great. I'm curious, you mentioned Amos's father, and I'm amazed by the fact not only that his dad has that opinion, but that he shared it on camera. But there's seemingly a touching moment where maybe he's reversed himself, where he refers to Amos as his hero. And that was a shocking moment because I was just trying to figure out how you happened to be there to capture that.
Jonathan and I went to visit his father when he was in hospital, just thinking that it may be the last interview that we were going to have with him, which actually ended up to be that way. It was the last interview we had. And we just asked him, what would you want to say to Amos if he was here? And he started to talk to him. And he actually, first time he was saying, Amos, I'm proud of you. Amos, I love you. And that's what you want from your character, to change. Whether it's in a narrative or a documentary, you want this art. You want to see that somebody that thought he's a zero, or somebody that was hitting his son because that was common over those days, unfortunately. And that's somebody that maybe unfortunately created the engine that made Amos to be who he was. Suddenly himself, he's changing. And how does that affect the story? How does that affect Amos? Amos actually saw that on our world premiere at the opening night of the Doc Aviv Film Festival in Israel for the first time. He saw his father talking to him that way. So that was very moving. He was extremely emotional. He was crying, and it was a moment.
I can't imagine how overwhelming that must have been for Amos, but even for you in shooting that, I'm curious, do you have any idea why then it clicked for his father that Amos is not a loser?
It's hard to say, but maybe, I can't speak on his behalf, but maybe he saw that we are, as filmmakers, coming to interview him about his son. Maybe he started to realize that, he did achieve something. And even though he didn't have a family, conventional family, and his family is the big animals, the wildlife, the mother and the two cubs. are his family. So there are different ways to look at life. I don't think that this is what went into his father's head, but you know that in life it's not a, A plus B gives you C. And even when a father will say to his son, you're a zero, a character in the movie will say, you're a zero, he can say it and in many ways mean, I love you, I care about you, I'm worried about you. And I feel like, it's a different color of him saying the same thing, but at the end. But that's really what Amos needed. Amos needed this, and he didn't, he never got it.
I think you've mentioned it, that there are parallels between your movies, 39 Pounds of Love and Dolphin Boy and this, all of them tied by these, father figures that are a little questionable, and certainly this element of trauma. To the extent that you're comfortable, what is your own personal experience with trauma?
I have this theory, and I think I learned it after Dolphin Boy, that the reason people can relate to post-traumatic stories is that everyone has their own post-trauma, and it doesn't have to be the same. And people can react to different situations in different ways. It can be false love. It can be, God forbid, rape, crime, and it can be something else. I will even argue that it can even be a success. Success can be traumatic to some people that I met. I mean, maybe some people you met are very traumatic too. They're very successful, but they're in trauma for that success. How can that happen to me? So I think people can relate to that pain and to the need to heal from that place. And that's maybe where I'm coming from. It's not something that I can say, oh, there was one event, but there are a few events that I could say, I can relate to Morad. I can relate to why Amos needs to go all the way to make that happen. There is something in him. And I think, to some extent, filmmakers have that in them. They're trying to heal, and art is the way of healing from whatever is it that they need to heal from.
And is it working?
And no, just to make it funny. No, it is, but you know what? It's the process. I think at some point it's interesting because I was just thinking about it lately, that in many ways what we do is kind of a drug. So the healing comes to you as a drug. And the more you do it, the more you need that drug. I mean, at least I found out that, I'm creating Dolphin Boy, I'm healing, I get this stimulation that makes me feel good about the creating process. I'm not talking about the feedback. Feedback can be this way or the other. But taking this story out there is a process that I constantly feel like I'm addicted to. Maybe I'm addicted to that medicine of healing that we talked about. But that's beyond me.
Well,
There's still no vaccine to that to that, and I'm happy because I do enjoy the process.
Well, that's one expensive drug you found. So,
Yeah, say it again.
I'm curious, when going back a little bit, this idea of the fathers, both in Dolphin Boy and here in Picture of His Life. You have kids who are happily ensconced in that lovely house behind you. Has making these films changed your approach to parenting in any way?
Yeah, actually, Dolphin Boy started when I had my first daughter, and I could relate as a father. What does it mean that your son was hurt, and you want to go all the way to heal? Actually, my partner for this film, Jonathan, became also a father from two separate women, by the way. I mean, we share a lot, but not to that extent. And then, and it's true. Even Olsi Perry and Olsi, the film that I released this year, talks about parenthood, talks about being a father. I mean, he's looking for his daughter. So I don't know if I choose it or it chooses me, but it's something that I'm very curious. Just from talking to you, I'm thinking that I shot a family movie now. Again, it's a road trip about, with the father and the son.
Mhm.
And so I don't know, maybe maybe I'm seeking stories like that.
No, you're creating your own parenting manual. So
Yeah. Figuring it out.
I'm curious with Amos that, in the film, I think it's a really potent idea. I believe it's Adam's talking about how Amos keeps needing to seek something out, to feel relevant, to feel significant. He's got to get the polar bear, and now he's done it. I mean, at the time, I guess he was 65, I think. Uh, what next? Like, does he seem to have a drive to find another critter, or just to go back and swim with the polar bears again?
You know, it's interesting because I spoke to Jonathan when we started to make this film. Jonathan comes from the wildlife world, and I'm not.
Mm.
So I was asking myself, what drives me to this story? I understood what drove Jonathan, and I thought it was Amos as a character, and it's related to what we spoke before. The fact that he's never feel satisfied. He's always looking for the next adventure, for the next goal. I don't think it can anything can be like the polar bear underwater. He never told me, oh, you know what? Now I want to shoot elephants on underwater. But it's he- as a person, he needs that hunger, and it's something that again it's stronger than him, and we see it with a lot of creative people. I see him as an artist, you know, and definitely as somebody that needs to express himself through his pictures.
Well, I can only paraphrase, but William Faulkner talked about this idea that, if he had created his perfect work, there'd be nothing left for him to do. So he was always sort of invested in having or recognizing the imperfections in his work to have something to move on to. I've been fascinated that you've balanced your career between these narratives and these docs, and you've also expressed some interest in turning some of the docs into narratives. Um, what is it that you think you can get out of a narrative version that you couldn't get out of the documentary?
First, I love working with actors. I just love it. It's just something that I really like to do. And you can always be in places that you could not be in the doc. And in many ways, what you just quoted is correct. You know, I'm always saying, you know what? There is something that I could have done better. In the narrative world, I can do that. I can be in those places that I couldn't be. I mean, we spoke about Dolphin Boy or with Amos, but I will. But if we talk about picture of his life, I would go deeper into his relationship with women that we didn't do in the documentary. Another project that I'm working now is turning on the map, which you and I were on the same panel at the Seattle Jewish Film Festival. Uh, and over there, I can be in the locker room. You know, I can be with Tal Brody speaking about father son when he's seeing his father just before the final game. I can be there. I couldn't be there in the documentary, and I miss that. I miss those moments. I miss that moment that he's holding his hand and just to be there. So that's kind of why I'm seeking the narrative and more so turning some of my documentaries into narrative. I'm just excited to live those moments and to have the audience and experience those moments.
I'm curious if it could happen, if your father could comment on where you are right now, what would he say?
Uh, you know, I would say, look, it's interesting because my father is not anything like those fathers that I see in the movie. In some ways, he was even too much, on me and worried about me. And but I would say he's pretty proud, even though definitely thought all the time that I should have gotten a real job. And when he told me that, I said to him, "What is a real job? What do you mean by real job? Like 9 to 5? What is it? A real job?" So that's the main thing that he wanted. But it's again out of protection, which
Uh,
in many ways maybe it's the father of Amos wanted him to live a normal life, become a carpenter, and have a family out of protection. That's what they knew. You know, they didn't know anything else.
well, I'm glad you have a fake job. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, one last thing, working with Jonathan, co-directing or co-writing, co-editing, all those things are very difficult. It's like having a real like marriage or relationship. And seemingly it works for the two of you. But I have to ask, since all partnerships are a little bit of compromise, is there anything you would have changed about Picture of His Life if it weren't for Jonathan?
And it's hard to say because both Dolphin Boy and Picture of His Life were born out of this partnership. So I knew in advance that okay, there is a way maybe I could have taken this movie, and I will give a lot of credit to Jonathan that in many ways he trusted me a lot, and I trusted also his instincts. But it is very hard. You know, the way I describe it, and we spoke a lot about it, Jonathan and I, is that co-directing is like going to travel with your wife when she wants to go here and you want to go there, you want to lay on the beach but she wants to climb the mountain, and you need to talk about it. Well, if you go to travel by yourself, you can just do what you feel you want to do at that moment. So I most of the movies I do direct by myself, and when I did it with Jonathan, there were moments that I knew. I will say that Jonathan brought more of a wildlife information that he wanted to bring. I maybe brought more of a personal emotions that I'm bringing, and so. But it's hard to tell because we haven't done the experience of okay, how will the movie look like if I was here by myself. I think it will probably gear more into his personal life.
Mhm.
I would even touch more of his personal life, and Jonathan would have done more maybe of the nature aspect of things, and Picture of His Life married those two together.
And it does it very well. So people in the audience tonight clearly love the movie. They'll love the encore. But if they want to tell friends about how to see the film, what would they do?
Pictureofhislife.com. Just go to our website and tell folks about it. It's a word of mouth film, and like I like to say, if you like it, really tell it to your friends, and if you didn't, just keep it to yourself.
Good. Well, I think there are going to be a lot of people talking to their friends. Thank you so much, Dani. A wonderful conversation as always. I think you're delightful, delightful filmmaker, not just because of your
Well,
talent, but because of your whole energy. I thank you for being here, and thank you for Picture of His Life.
Warren, one of the best parts about going through this journey is at the end, I know I will have a conversation with you. So something good is going to happen, regardless to what will be on the way. So thank you so much for all your help, support, and friendship.
Thank you, sir. All right. And good night, audience out there. All right. Okay. Hey, there we go.